It is a done deal. Congressional Republicans today pushed their sweeping tax bill across the finish line. Then they partied with the president. Lisa Desjardins begins our coverage.
Hasn't been done in 34 years, but actually really hasn't been done because we broke every record. It's the largest tax cut in the history of our country.
For President Trump and governing Republicans, a White House victory lap today after scoring their first sweeping legislative win.
$3.2 trillion, just think of it, in tax cuts for American families, including doubling the standard deduction and doubling the child tax credit.
Final passage of the tax code overhaul came after the bill hurdled last-minute roadblocks. House Republicans first passed it yesterday, but Senate Republicans had to drop 3 provisions which violated the budget rules governing the process. Chants of "kill the bill" temporarily drowned out senators as they moved to the vote after midnight. It passed with all Republicans voting yes, all Democrats voting no, and Vice President Pence presiding.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is passed.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell brushed off the bill's low ratings as temporary.
If we can't sell this to the American people, we ought to go into another line of work. I think this is an important accomplishment for the country that people will value and appreciate.
On this vote,
Then today, the truly final vote came in the House, and with it, another eruption of applause.
without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Next, perhaps the largest lawmaker caravan in history took Republicans to the White House by bus. As for Democrats, leaders Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi warned that the bill will haunt the GOP.
Now we know they're popping champagne down Pennsylvania Avenue. There are only 2 places where America is popping champagne: the White House and the corporate boardrooms, including Trump Tower.
Insulting crumbs they give working families are meager and temporary. The tax breaks for corporate America are vast and permanent.
As for the bill's cost, estimated to be $1.5 trillion by nonpartisan analysts, Republicans have insisted that will be paid for by growth. But today, House Speaker Paul Ryan was asked if the growth will be enough to cover that cost. He responded,
"Nobody knows the answer to that question because that's in the future. But what we do know is that this will increase economic growth."
White House officials, including Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, have said the plan will, quote, pay for itself.
So we have a few questions for Lisa, but first, here's a reminder of the main changes that this bill will bring about. The corporate tax rate drops substantially from 35% to 21%. Most individuals will see income tax cuts, but less dramatic, and those expire in 2026. The standard deduction doubles for most households. State and local tax deductions remain, but they are limited to $10,000. And it repeals the individual health insurance mandate that was part of the Affordable Care Act. President Trump is expected to sign the tax bill into law next week. And Lisa, you've been looking at some of the other policy shifts in this tax bill. Let's talk about that. Step back and let's look at how does it change our priorities?
Right, I'm so happy to have this conversation. First, the business focus that Republicans have here. It seems like it's part of DNA for Republicans, but look at it historically. This shift is to a top rate for corporations that is the lowest since before World War II. And also it changes the conversation. This is a key debate. Republicans see helping business owners as something that helps everyone. Democrats see that as helping the wealthy. Here, Republicans have kind of shifted the policy direction there. Another one, Judy, that I haven't heard talked about much, traditional families. This bill actually does a great deal for traditional families. One, we know the child tax credit is doubled in this bill, but something that hasn't gotten much attention is alimony. This bill would reverse the way alimony deductions work. Right now, someone who pays alimony can take a deduction for that. This bill would change that starting in 2019 so that the deduction would only go to the person receiving alimony. You know, and this isn't just me noticing this. Speaker Paul Ryan talked about these issues and about the idea of sort of increasing child birth rates just a couple weeks or last week. Here's a listen.
This is going to be the new economic challenge for America. People. Baby boomers are retiring. I did my part, but you know, we need to have higher birth rates in this country. Meaning, baby boomers are retiring, and we have fewer people following them in the workforce.
And so it's definitely something you see in this bill.
Pushing toward marriage and families.
Right.
It also affects some things that we buy and sell, like housing.
Right. There's a housing cool down in this bill, not just talking about the state and local property tax deductions, which are lowered, so you would actually pay more taxes on high-priced properties, but it actually, the mortgage deduction goes down as well. So new properties sold over $750,000, you wouldn't get that interest deduction. And I spoke to real estate agents today who think that will affect buying and selling of properties.
So let's talk, Lisa, a little bit about how this is implemented exactly. Go over exactly when it goes into effect.
All right, so everyone says January 1st, but what does that mean? It means income earned after January 1st will be taxed under this new law. Income earned this year, taxed under the old law. So you're filing your taxes in April, what's that mean? It's the old law. The first time your tax form will see these changes will be the next year, 2019.
And so we are 11 days away
Right.
from January
Right.
1st. Employers and others, the IRS, have got to scramble at this point to get everything in order.
Right, they have to withhold income based on this new tax law. So here's a statement from the IRS that they gave me today on how they're looking at this. They say, we anticipate the initial withholding guidance in January, and that should allow taxpayers, they say, to see benefits of this change as early as February. Judy, that guidance usually goes out early December. So it's over a month late. Now that's a problem for those who handle payrolls. We got a letter from the American Payroll Association as well. They say this is a Herculean task. However, one bright spot, Judy, talking to them today, they say the conference report actually gives more flexibility. They feel like it's gotten a little easier to handle this task.
So some of it being delayed, but what does this mean for these final days of 2017 for people?
Well, charities are sending out notices to people to say, if you want to give more now, because fewer people will deduct the charitable deduction next year because the standard deduction doubles. So they think more people should give money now if you're willing to. The other issue, Judy, is property taxes. If you pay high property taxes, you should ask your local assessor if you can pay next year's taxes early, because that may be a benefit. You might be able to take a deduction now that closes next year.
So that means focusing on something other than the holidays.
Unfortunately, yes, that's when this is hitting.
A major tax bill. Lisa Desjardins, thank you.